The Psychology of Economics. How to stop making impulsive and unnecessary purchases. Before we begin, take a moment to get comfortable. This audiobook is designed to be listened to calmly, perhaps while walking, resting, or doing something simple. The ideas you're about to hear are not meant to judge you, but to help you understand yourself better. If you enjoy content that helps you improve your relationship with money, habits, and decision-making, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Your support allows us to continue creating thoughtful, practical audiobooks like this one. Now, let's begin. Every day, millions of people make purchases they later regret. A shirt worn once, a gadget barely used, a subscription forgotten, a credit card balance that keeps growing. Most of these purchases were not planned. They were impulsive, emotional, and unnecessary. Yet, if you ask those people, they will often say the same thing. I don't know why I bought it. The truth is, our economic decisions are far less rational than we like to believe. Behind every purchase is a complex psychological process involving emotions, habits, social pressure, and mental shortcuts. Understanding this process is the first step toward regaining control. This audiobook explores how psychology influences economic behavior, and more importantly, how you can stop making impulsive and unnecessary purchases without feeling deprived, guilty, or restricted. Throughout this journey, you'll learn how your brain works when money is involved, why self-control often fails, and how to redesign your decisions so that spending becomes intentional instead of automatic. And remember, if this content resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapters. Let's move into Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Why we think we are rational and why we are not. Most people believe they are logical when it comes to money. We like to think that we compare prices, evaluate usefulness, and make choices based on reason. This belief is comforting, but largely false. In reality, the human brain did not evolve to manage modern financial systems. Credit cards, online shopping, targeted advertising, and instant payments are all extremely new in evolutionary terms. Our brains are still wired for survival in environments where resources were scarce and decisions were immediate. This mismatch creates a perfect storm for impulsive spending. The first key concept to understand is this: your brain uses shortcuts to make decisions. These shortcuts are known as cognitive biases. They allow us to make quick decisions without spending too much mental energy. While they are useful for survival, they often lead us to poor financial choices. For example, consider how you feel when you see a limited time offer. Even if you don't need the product, your brain interprets scarcity as urgency. The emotional part of your brain takes over, whispering, "Buy now or you'll miss out." This happens before logic has time to intervene. Another powerful force is emotional spending. We don't buy things only for their function. We buy feelings. Comfort, excitement, status, distraction, and relief from stress are all commonly purchased emotions. After a long, exhausting day, your brain looks for a reward. Buying something new creates a small dopamine spike, a brief sensation of pleasure. This is not accidental. Modern marketplaces are designed to exploit this neurological response. But dopamine fades quickly, and when it does, regret often replaces it. At this point, many people blame themselves. They assume the problem is a lack of discipline or willpower. However, willpower is a limited resource. When you are tired, stressed, hungry, or emotionally overwhelmed, your ability to resist impulses drops significantly. This is why impulsive purchases often happen late at night, after work, or during emotional moments. Understanding this is crucial. Impulsive spending is not a personal failure. It is a predictable psychological response. Once you accept this, you can stop fighting yourself and start designing better systems. Another illusion we hold is that small purchases don't matter. A coffee here, a small app there, a quick online order that seems insignificant. Individually, they feel harmless. Collectively, they quietly drain financial stability. Psychologists call this the aggregation bias. We underestimate the long-term impact of repeated small decisions. Our brain struggles to feel the weight of future consequences, especially when the reward is immediate. This is why long-term goals, saving, investing, financial freedom, often lose to short-term pleasure. Let's pause for a moment. If you're finding value in these insights so far, this is a good time to subscribe to the channel. Each chapter builds on the last, and staying subscribed ensures you continue this journey without interruption. Now, let's go deeper. Another factor influencing impulsive spending is identity. We don't just buy objects, we buy versions of ourselves. A book represents the reader we want to be. Gym equipment represents the healthy version of ourselves. Expensive items can represent success, confidence, or belonging. The problem arises when purchases replace action. Buying feels like progress even when it isn't. Your brain rewards the intention, not the result. This creates a dangerous loop. Buy, feel motivated, fail to follow through, feel guilt, buy again to compensate. Marketing understands this loop very well. Advertisements rarely sell products, they sell stories. Stories where you are happier, more attractive, more successful if you buy now. These messages bypass logic and speak directly to emotion. And because these messages are constant, resistance becomes exhausting. Here is an important truth. You cannot rely on constant self-control in a system designed to weaken it. Instead, asking, "Why am I so bad with money?" is a better question. What psychological forces are influencing me right now? Awareness is the first line of defense. When you begin to notice your emotional state before a purchase, boredom, stress, excitement, you create a small gap between impulse and action. In that gap, choice becomes possible. This chapter is not about changing behavior yet. It's about understanding, because lasting change does not come from restriction. It comes from insight. In the next chapter, we will explore how emotions and stress directly shape spending habits and why emotional regulation is one of the most powerful financial skills you can develop. Before we close this chapter, remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to continue learning how to take back control of your financial decisions step by step without guilt or deprivation. Take a breath. Let these ideas settle. Before we move forward, take a moment to notice how you feel right now. Not what you think, but what you feel. Calm, distracted, tired, curious, tense? This awareness is more important than it may seem. Because emotions are one of the most powerful forces behind impulsive and unnecessary purchases. Many people believe emotional spending only happens when we feel bad. Sadness, anxiety, loneliness, or frustration often get the blame. And while it's true that negative emotions can trigger impulsive buying, they are only part of the story. Positive emotions can be just as dangerous. Excitement, celebration, relief, and even pride can lower our financial defenses. When we feel good, our brain assumes everything is under control. Risk feels smaller, consequences feel distant. This is why people often overspend after receiving good news, a bonus, or even after completing a difficult task. The purchase feels like a reward, something earned. Your brain says, "You deserve this." And sometimes that may be true. The problem begins when rewards become automatic rather than intentional. Stress plays a central role in this process. When you are stressed, your brain shifts into a survival-oriented mode. Long-term planning becomes less important. Immediate comfort becomes the priority. This is not a flaw, it is biology. Under stress, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and self-control, becomes less active. At the same time, the emotional centers of the brain become more dominant. This makes impulsive decisions more likely. In simple terms, the more stressed you are, the harder it is to say no. Modern life keeps many people in a constant low-level state of stress. Notifications, deadlines, financial pressure, social comparison, and information overload all contribute to mental fatigue. Mental fatigue is especially dangerous for spending habits. When your brain is tired, it looks for shortcuts. Buying something familiar, clicking Buy Now, or repeating a habitual purchase requires very little effort. Thinking, comparing, and delaying require much more. This is why late-night online shopping is so common. Another hidden trigger is boredom. Boredom is not simply the absence of activity, it is the absence of meaning or engagement. When bored, the brain seeks stimulation. Online shopping provides novelty, choice, and anticipation all in one place. Scrolling through products becomes entertainment. The purchase itself is often secondary. What the brain really wants is stimulation. This is why many impulsive purchases lose their appeal shortly after they arrive. The excitement was never about the object, it was about the moment. Let's pause briefly. If you are starting to recognize yourself in these patterns, that's a sign of progress. Awareness reduces automatic behavior. And if you want to continue this journey of understanding and change, remember to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming chapters. Now, let's look at another emotional force: identity protection. When people feel insecure, excluded, or uncertain about their status, spending can become a way to protect identity. Buying certain brands, experiences, or appearances sends a signal to others and to oneself. This signal says, "I belong," or "I am successful," or "I am in control." The danger is that identity-based spending often ignores financial reality. It prioritizes perception over sustainability. Over time, this creates internal conflict. The image looks good, but the stress behind it grows. This internal conflict often leads to more spending, not less. Why? Because spending temporarily numbs the discomfort. This cycle is subtle and deeply human. Another emotional trigger worth understanding is decision avoidance. Money decisions can be emotionally uncomfortable. Budgets, savings goals, and financial limits force us to confront trade-offs. Choosing one thing means giving up another. For many people, spending impulsively is a way to avoid thinking altogether. The decision is made quickly, emotionally, and without reflection. The discomfort is postponed. Unfortunately, postponed discomfort tends to return with interest. Here is an important reframing. Impulsive spending is often an emotional regulation strategy. Once you see it this way, the solution changes. Instead of only focusing on stopping the behavior, you begin to address the emotional need behind it. This does not mean suppressing emotions, it means learning to respond to them differently. A key skill here is emotional labeling. When you feel the urge to buy something, try naming the emotion first, not judging it, just naming it. I feel stressed. I feel bored. I feel restless. I feel lonely. Research shows that labeling emotions reduces their intensity. It creates psychological distance. This small pause can weaken the impulse enough for logic to re-enter the conversation. Another powerful technique is delay, not denial. You don't need to say never, you can say not now. A simple delay of 24 hours significantly reduces impulsive purchases. The emotional charge fades. The brain regains balance. Many purchases lose their appeal entirely. This is not about discipline, it's about timing. As we close this chapter, remember this central idea. Your spending habits are deeply connected to how you handle emotions and stress. Improving your financial life does not begin with spreadsheets. It begins with self-awareness and emotional skill. In the next chapter, we will explore how habits are formed, why spending becomes automatic, and how small environmental changes can dramatically reduce impulsive behavior without relying on constant self-control. If this chapter helped you see your spending in a new light, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Each chapter is a step towards a calmer, more intentional relationship with money. Take a breath. Chapter 3: Habits, Automation, and Why You Buy Without Thinking. By now, you may have noticed an important shift. We are no longer talking about isolated purchases. We are talking about patterns. Most unnecessary spending does not come from big, dramatic decisions. It comes from habits, quiet, repeated behaviors that operate below conscious awareness. A habit is simply a behavior that has become automatic through repetition. Once formed, habits require very little mental energy. This is efficient for the brain, but dangerous when the habit involves spending. The brain loves efficiency. When a behavior leads to a reward, even a small one, the brain remembers. Over time, it stops asking whether the behavior makes sense. It only asks whether the reward is likely. This is how buying coffee every morning, ordering food instead of cooking, or browsing online stores during breaks becomes automatic. You're not deciding anymore. You are responding. Habits follow a simple structure: cue, routine, reward. The cue is the trigger. It might be time-based, emotional, environmental, or social. The routine is the action, the purchase or browsing. The reward is the feeling, comfort, relief, pleasure, or distraction. Once this loop is established, the brain begins to anticipate the reward as soon as the cue appears. This anticipation itself creates craving. Importantly, the reward does not need to be strong. It only needs to be consistent. This is why many habitual purchases feel unsatisfying yet hard to stop. Another powerful force is environmental design. Your environment constantly nudges your behavior. One-click purchases, saved credit cards, subscription models, and personalized recommendations are not neutral features. They are designed to remove friction. Friction is the enemy of impulsive spending. The less effort required to buy, the more likely you are to do it without thinking. When purchasing becomes easier than pausing, habits flourish. Think about how rarely you physically handle money anymore. Cash creates awareness. Digital spending creates distance. That distance weakens emotional connection to loss. This is not accidental. Convenience is profitable. Let's pause for a moment. If you're finding these insights useful, remember to subscribe to the channel. Each chapter builds toward practical, realistic change, and staying subscribed helps you follow the full journey. Now, let's explore automatic identity-based habits. Some habits are not about pleasure at all. They are about consistency with identity. If you see yourself as someone who treats themselves, someone who keeps up with trends, or someone who avoids discomfort, your habits will quietly reinforce that identity. The brain seeks coherence. Once an identity is established, behaviors that align with it feel natural. Behaviors that challenge it feel uncomfortable. This is why change feels like resistance, even when we want it. Here is the key insight. You do not need to eliminate habits. You need to redesign them. Trying to rely on motivation alone rarely works. Motivation fluctuates. Habits persist. Small environmental changes can disrupt habit loops without emotional struggle. For example, removing saved payment information adds friction. Unsubscribing from marketing emails reduces cues. Changing routines around known trigger times breaks automatic patterns. Limiting exposure to shopping apps reduces temptation. These changes work not because you are stronger, but because the environment is quieter. Another overlooked factor is social automation. Spending habits are often reinforced by social norms. If everyone around you orders frequently, upgrades often, or treats spending as stress relief, those behaviors become normalized. Humans are deeply social learners. This does not mean you must reject others' habits. It means you must become aware of how social environments influence your defaults. One powerful strategy is conscious substitution. Instead of removing a habit entirely, replace the routine while keeping the cue and reward. If stress triggers online shopping, replace it with a short walk, music, or journaling. The reward, relief, remains. The cost disappears. This approach works because it respects the brain's need for reward rather than fighting it. As we move forward, remember this: automatic spending is not a lack of intelligence. It is a system working as designed. Your job is not to fight the system inside your head. It is to build a better one around it. In the next chapter, we will explore how marketing, pricing strategies, and psychological manipulation influence spending and how to see through them without becoming cynical or paranoid. Before we end, if this chapter helped you understand your habits more clearly, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. The upcoming chapters will give you practical tools to protect your money and your peace of mind. Take a breath. At this point, you may be noticing something important. Many of your spending decisions were never entirely yours. This realization is not meant to create anger or mistrust. It is meant to create clarity. Modern marketing is not about informing you. It is about influencing you, often below conscious awareness. Understanding this influence gives you power, not paranoia. Let's start with the illusion of choice. When you enter a store or open an online platform, it feels like you are choosing freely. In reality, your choices are heavily guided. Product placement, default options, highlighted items, and recommended for you sections quietly narrow your attention. The brain tends to choose what is easiest to see, easiest to understand, and easiest to justify. This is called choice architecture. When certain options are framed as popular, limited, or best value, they feel safer. Your brain interprets them as socially approved and low risk. This reduces decision stress but increases spending. Another powerful tool is price anchoring. Anchoring works by presenting a high price first, making subsequent prices feel reasonable by comparison. Even if you would never buy the expensive option, it shifts your perception of value. For example, a product listed at $200 next to one at $120 makes the second seem like a bargain, even if $120 is still unnecessary. Your brain does not evaluate prices in isolation. It evaluates them relative to context. Discounts exploit this perfectly. A sale does not create value, it reframes it. When something is labeled 50% off, your brain focuses on what you are saving, not on what you are spending. This creates a sense of urgency and success, even when the purchase was unplanned. Let's pause briefly. If you are finding these insights eye-opening, remember to subscribe to the channel. Awareness is the strongest defense, and the next chapters will show you how to turn awareness into lasting change. Now, let's talk about personalization. Algorithms learn your preferences, habits, and emotional triggers. Over time, they become very good at predicting when you are most likely to buy. Notifications, ads, and recommendations often appear at moments of vulnerability. This is not coincidence, it is optimization. The goal is not to serve you, it is to keep you engaged and spending. Another subtle manipulation is bundling. When items are grouped together, your brain evaluates the package rather than the individual costs. This reduces price sensitivity. You focus on perceived value rather than actual need. Subscriptions take this even further. They transform spending into something invisible. Once activated, the decision disappears. Money leaves quietly, without emotional friction. This is why subscriptions are often underestimated and forgotten. Now, consider social proof. Reviews, ratings, testimonials, and "people like you bought this" messages reduce uncertainty. Your brain trusts crowds. If others approve, it feels safer to proceed. This bypasses personal reflection. Here is a crucial insight. Marketing does not force you to buy. It shapes the emotional environment in which you decide. Knowing this allows you to step back. Instead of asking, "Do I want this?" Try asking, why does this feel urgent right now? Or what emotion is being activated? This reframing weakens manipulation. Another effective strategy is intentional friction. Instead of seeking maximum convenience, allow small obstacles. Slower checkout, manual entry of payment details, or waiting periods reintroduce thinking. Thinking reduces impulsivity. This is not about rejecting all marketing, it is about engaging with it consciously. You can appreciate design, storytelling, and innovation without surrendering control. As we close this chapter, remember, the more aware you are of influence, the less power it has over you. In the next chapter, we will focus on building intentional spending habits, how to align money with values rather than impulses, and how to spend with confidence instead of regret. Before we move on, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Each chapter adds another layer of protection and clarity to your financial life. Take a breath. Chapter 5. From Impulse to Intention. Redefining how you spend. Up to this point, we have focused on understanding your emotions, your habits, and the external forces shaping your decisions. Now, we begin a subtle but powerful shift, from reaction to intention. Intentional spending does not mean spending less at all costs. It means spending with clarity. When your spending aligns with your values, guilt fades and confidence grows. The first step toward intentional spending is identifying what truly matters to you. Most impulsive purchases are disconnected from long-term values. They serve short-term emotions instead. When values are unclear, impulses take the lead. Values act as an internal compass. They help your brain evaluate choices quickly without emotional overload. When a purchase supports a value, it feels grounded. When it doesn't, hesitation appears naturally. Take a moment to reflect. What do you genuinely value? Freedom? Security? Creativity? Comfort? Growth? Connection? Health? There are no right answers, only honest ones. Once values are clear, spending decisions become easier. This is because you are no longer asking, "Do I want this?" You're asking, "Does this support the life I'm building?" This single question transforms the decision-making process. Another key concept is conscious trade-offs. Every purchase is a trade. Money spent on one thing cannot be spent on another. Impulsive spending hides this reality. Intentional spending brings it into focus. This is not meant to create restriction. It creates choice. When you choose intentionally, you are not losing something. You are choosing something else. This mindset reduces resentment and deprivation. Let's pause briefly. If this chapter is helping you rethink your relationship with money, remember to subscribe to the channel. The next chapters will help you build a calmer, more confident relationship with money. Now, let's talk about spending plans, not budgets. Budgets often feel punitive. They focus on limits rather than priorities. A spending plan, on the other hand, focuses on alignment. It answers the question, where do I want my money to go? Instead of tracking every expense obsessively, intentional spenders create categories that reflect values: experiences, learning, health, rest, creativity, or security. Money assigned to these categories is meant to be used without guilt. This reduces impulsive spending because emotional needs are already acknowledged. Another powerful shift is redefining treating yourself. Treats are not inherently bad. The problem is when treats become the default response to discomfort. True self-care is not always pleasurable in the moment. Sometimes it is calming, grounding, or protective. Replacing impulsive treats with intentional rewards strengthens self-trust. Delayed rewards play an important role here. When you delay a purchase intentionally and still choose it later, the purchase becomes more satisfying. It is no longer driven by impulse, it is chosen. This reinforces identity as someone who is in control. Control does not mean rigidity, it means authorship. You are writing the story of your financial life, not reacting to it. Another helpful practice is reflective spending. After a purchase, instead of guilt or justification, reflect. Ask yourself, how does this make me feel now? This builds feedback awareness. Over time, the brain learns which purchases truly deliver value and which do not. This learning reduces future impulsivity. As we close this chapter, remember this core idea. Intentional spending is not about perfection, it is about presence. In the next chapter, we will explore practical systems, simple, realistic structures that protect you from impulsive spending even when life gets busy or stressful. Before we move on, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Each chapter is designed to help you build a calmer, more confident relationship with money.
Chapter 6. Building systems that protect you when willpower fails. By now, one truth should be clear. Willpower is unreliable. This is not a weakness, it is a human limitation. No one has infinite self-control, especially in a world designed to demand constant attention and decision-making. This is why the most effective way to reduce impulsive and unnecessary spending is not to become stronger, but to become smarter about systems. A system is any structure that shapes your behavior automatically. Good systems reduce the number of decisions you need to make. They protect you when you are tired, stressed, or distracted. Let's start with friction. Earlier, we talked about how convenience fuels impulsive spending. Now we flip that insight into a tool. Adding small amounts of friction to spending decisions can dramatically reduce impulsive behavior without requiring emotional effort. Examples include removing saved credit card information, using separate accounts for spending and saving, turning off one-click purchases, deleting shopping apps from your phone. Each of these creates a pause, and in that pause, intention has a chance to appear. Another powerful system is automation, but used in your favor. Most people automate spending. You can automate protection instead. Automating savings, debt payments, or investments ensures that money is allocated before impulses arise. What remains available to spend feels safer and more honest. This reduces internal conflict. You are no longer constantly negotiating with yourself. Let's pause briefly. If you're finding these ideas practical and grounding, remember to subscribe to the channel. The remaining chapters will help you solidify these systems into everyday life. Now, let's talk about boundaries. Boundaries are not punishments, they are expressions of self-respect. A spending boundary might look like no purchases when emotionally overwhelmed, no online shopping after a certain hour, no unplanned purchases above a specific amount. Boundaries reduce decision fatigue. They turn complex choices into simple rules. The key is realism. Systems that are too strict collapse under pressure. Systems that are flexible but clear endure. Another essential system is review. Without reflection, spending patterns remain invisible. A short weekly or monthly review creates awareness without obsession. Ask simple questions. What purchases brought real value? What purchases felt impulsive? What patterns do I notice? This is not about shame, it is about learning. Learning leads to adaptation. Another underestimated system is physical distance. Distance weakens desire. Leaving your wallet at home, using cash for discretionary spending, or keeping savings in accounts that are not instantly accessible all reduce impulsive behavior. Again, this is not about denial, it is about creating space. Space allows the rational brain to participate. One more system worth mentioning is identity reinforcement. Systems work best when they align with how you see yourself. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to stop spending," say, "I'm someone who spends intentionally." This small shift influences behavior at a deep level. The brain seeks consistency with identity. As we approach the end of this chapter, remember, systems are acts of kindness toward your future self. They reduce stress, simplify decisions, and make progress sustainable. In the next chapter, we will explore long-term thinking, how to reconnect with future goals so they feel emotionally real, not abstract or distant. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. You're building something meaningful here, one chapter at a time.
Chapter 7. Making the Future Feel Real. Long-term Thinking and Self-Trust. One of the biggest challenges in personal finance is not knowledge, it is time. The future feels distant, abstract, and emotionally weak. The present feels vivid, urgent, and demanding. Impulsive spending thrives in this gap. Your brain is wired to prioritize what it can feel now over what it can imagine later. This is why long-term goals, saving, stability, freedom, often lose to short-term comfort. To change this, the future must become emotionally real. Let's begin with future self-connection. Research shows that people who feel emotionally connected to their future selves make better financial decisions. They save more, spend more intentionally, and experience less regret. When the future feels like a stranger, sacrifice feels pointless. When the future feels like you, care becomes natural. One simple way to strengthen this connection is visualization. Imagine your life 1, 5, or 10 years from now, not in abstract terms, but in concrete detail. Where are you? How do you feel? What stresses are gone? What freedoms exist? This is not fantasy, it is emotional grounding. The more vividly you can imagine the benefits of intentional spending, the easier it becomes to delay gratification. Another powerful tool is making progress visible. Progress reduces impulsivity. When you can see savings growing, debt shrinking, or goals getting closer, your brain receives reward without spending. This reward replaces the dopamine spike of impulsive purchases. Even small progress matters. Tracking does not need to be detailed or obsessive. Simple visuals, checklists, or milestones are enough. Let's pause briefly. If this chapter is helping you rethink time and money, remember to subscribe to the channel. The final chapters will help you integrate everything into a calm, sustainable mindset. Now let's talk about self-trust. Many people struggle with money not because they are irresponsible, but because they do not trust themselves. Past mistakes create doubt. Doubt creates anxiety. Anxiety fuels impulsive behavior. Rebuilding self-trust is essential. Self-trust grows through consistency, not perfection. Every time you delay a purchase, reflect before buying, or choose intention over impulse, you reinforce trust. Even when you make mistakes, how you respond matters. Shame weakens self-trust. Curiosity strengthens it. Ask, what was I feeling, not what's wrong with me? Another way to support long-term thinking is aligning goals with meaning. Goals that are purely numerical feel cold. Goals connected to life quality feel motivating. Instead of saving money, think buying peace of mind. Instead of avoiding debt, think protecting future freedom. Meaning sustains effort. One more concept worth understanding is temporal compassion. Your past self made decisions with the knowledge and tools available at the time. Your present self is learning. Your future self will benefit. Blame breaks this chain. Compassion strengthens it. As we approach the end of this chapter, remember, the future becomes easier to protect when it feels worth caring about. In the next chapter, we will bring everything together: how to maintain balance, avoid extremes, and build a healthy, flexible relationship with money that lasts. Before we move on,
take a moment to subscribe to the channel. You are close to completing a powerful shift in how you think about spending. Final chapter: a calmer way forward, living with awareness, choice, and confidence. If you're listening to this final chapter, take a moment to acknowledge something important. You've just completed a journey of understanding, one that goes far beyond money. This audiobook was never really about stopping purchases. It was about understanding why we buy, what we feel when we do, and how we can live with more intention and less regret. At the beginning, we talked about a simple truth. Humans are not purely rational economic beings. We are emotional, social, and habitual. Once you accept this, the struggle changes. You stop fighting yourself. Instead, you start working with how your mind actually functions. Throughout these chapters, you've learned that impulsive spending is not a moral failure. It is often a response to stress, emotion, identity, and environment. You've seen how habits form, how marketing influences choice, and how the future often feels too distant to matter. But you've also learned something empowering. You've learned that awareness creates space. Space creates choice, and choice creates change. Change does not require perfection. It requires honesty and consistency. A calmer financial life is not built overnight. It is built through small, repeated moments of intention. A pause before buying, a question instead of a reaction, a system that protects you when life gets overwhelming. Most importantly, it is built through self-respect. When you respect your emotional needs, you don't need to numb them with spending. When you respect your future self, you don't need to sacrifice peace for momentary pleasure. When you respect your values, decisions become clearer. There will still be impulses. That's normal. The difference is that impulses no longer control you. They become information, not commands. Remember this going forward. You are allowed to enjoy money. You are allowed to make mistakes. You are allowed to change your mind. What matters is that you return again and again to intention. If you ever feel overwhelmed, come back to the basics. Notice how you feel. Identify what you actually need. Create a little distance before deciding. These simple steps are powerful. As we close, let's reframe the goal one last time. The goal is not to spend less. The goal is to live better. Money is a tool that can support calm, freedom, and meaning, or it can amplify stress and distraction. The difference lies not in income level, but in awareness. You now have that awareness, and with it, you have choice. If this audiobook has helped you see your relationship with money and with yourself more clearly, take a moment now to subscribe to the channel. Your support allows us to continue creating content that helps people live with more clarity, balance, and confidence. Thank you for listening. Take care of your future self and move forward calmly, one intentional choice at a time. As this audiobook comes to a close, remember that nothing you've learned here requires urgency or pressure. Change happens quietly, in moments of pause, in small decisions that compound over time. You don't need to overhaul your life. You don't need perfect discipline. You only need awareness and a willingness to choose differently when it matters. Return to these ideas whenever spending feels confusing or emotional. Let them guide you back to calm, clarity, and intention. If this audiobook brought you value, insight, or peace of mind, remember to subscribe to the channel. More content like this is on the way, designed to help you think clearly, live intentionally, and move forward with confidence. Thank you for listening. Take a deep breath and carry this awareness with you.